Hey everyone and welcome. We are Next Level Business Advisors and this is Business Stories of Success. If you want to break through and achieve your own business success by learning from other successful business owners, you're in the right channel. For more of our content, make sure you click subscribe and don't forget the bell icon so you're the first to be notified when new videos are added. Enjoy today's video.
Hello, hello, hello. You're with Marc Adams at Next Level Business Advisors, and we are here with the king, Mr. Chris Lear. King Lear, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you so much, Mark. I'm excited to chat with you about business and everything else today.
I'm excited to have you. Now, you'll find as we get into our discussion that we're going to laugh a lot, I hope, because it's no fun if you're not laughing none. How you like
What's
that?
the point? What's the point?
So let's get into it. I'm looking forward to this discussion. Chris is a business owner who is, well, I'll let you tell it. That's probably always best. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What's the name? What's the name of your business?
Sure thing. Thanks, Mark. My name is Chris Lear. I got no justification for the pronunciation, but that's how it goes. Owner of Chris Lear Consulting, and I'm a communications coach and consultant, and I specialize in story-based communication for professionals. And so what I do is I work with legal professionals. I'm a recovering attorney myself, so that's kind of where I started, helping those folks talk to other people, but especially legal folks, real estate folks, insurance folks, anyone who's going out and seeking customers and figuring out how to connect with them through your personal story, tell the story of your organization, the story of your service, so that you can connect and make them the hero and then conquer in your field. And so love working with people, fixing those communications, getting those presentations on point so you can live your best story. That's the way we do it.
Very nice. Now, I said to you, I'm going to turn off my Outlook and everything, and like a dummy, somehow it's on. How about that for genius?
It
We're
sneaks
going
up
to
on
tell a story
technology.
about that in a moment.
Can't get away.
But I don't want to lose myself because that was very interesting what you said. And so I want to talk a little bit, and I've been doing this a little bit differently this year as I've been doing the podcast. When we have a very interesting business industry aligned that I want to get your thoughts. Like, what made you? How did you come to that conclusion that this is a business? Just give us a little bit about it.
Excellent. Yeah, the story of my business. This is what I help people do all the time. And so my personal story went through a lot of different variations, but I found myself going through law school, becoming an attorney, and finding that it wasn't really a good fit for me. So
Okay.
I transitioned out of that, working at a big company, but needing to still exercise that creative muscle. I do performance and music and some acting and stuff. So I started doing storytelling on stage. Like here, I'm based in the Twin Cities. We have all kinds of storytelling, kind of like a poetry slam, but for stories. You get 5-10 minutes, start telling your story. Started doing really well, winning competitions, getting hired to do things. And then one guy came up to me and he said, have you ever thought about being a professional public speaker? And I thought,
Ah,
well, I aspired to an MBA career, but it didn't work out. It's usually like ex-athletes or astronauts. And he said, no, it's actually a whole industry. So I started looking into it on his recommendation and taking those skills that I had from the stage and the story and transitioning them into public speaking. And then while I was doing that, how you build a business while you're still at the old job, you kind of swing in between two branches.
oh yes.
I started doing more, weaving that more into my day job. So doing more presentations, taking all the ideas that I liked and drawing on my background as a teacher, which was my first job. And so while I was doing the professional public speaking was a great way to merge that presentation and performance skills with my teaching background and make it into something that's useful for professionals. And then just grew it from there. So then from
Nice.
going from giving speeches to teaching people these communication skills that I have, it's not just all about me presenting. These are skills that are useful when you're talking to a new client, when you're at a
Absolutely.
conference, when you're developing your marketing. I realized that story was central to all of those things. It's central to every communication, every email, every text, every conversation you have with a client. You're really telling a story. And so instead of selling, I always say you sell through story. And so once I hit
Beautiful.
on that, I thought, oh, I can use this story to help people with presentations, help people with communications, help people with their career development. And so that's
Awesome.
where I came at it, being able to use story plus teaching to give people a way to connect, convert, conquer, and live their best story.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for that. I always find that interesting when we have, look, when I started out, I did accounting. I still do accounting, but I was a business advisor. That's easy, right? Oh, what do you want to do? Accountant. When I was a little child, they said, "Oh, what do you want to be?" And I said, "A chemist." Those are but now I'm a professional storyteller and I teach people. That's not something you grow up wanting. So it's interesting because these
No.
unique business ideas, when we come upon them, what I like about it is it tells a business owner you can have an idea that's not standard and you
Right.
can build it into a business. Now, how long have you been in business?
Well, I've been training and teaching, for 20 years plus. And so I've been training and doing those skills for a long time. I've been a legal professional for about 10, 15 years. And that's how I got into it. And then really been set out working the business. Again, like I said, you kind of ease into it for about a handful of years, about 5 years, I'd say. I've been building professional speaking and then moving into coaching.
Beautiful, beautiful. So 5 years, let's say 5 years in the consulting game is a good long period of time, and that's successful, right? Our podcast is entitled Stories of Success, and we're going to talk about that a bit more, but that sounds pretty successful to me. So before we get into it, I'd like to do a little housekeeping. King Lear, you don't spell it Leer. So if we were to try to find your website, how would we find it?
Exactly. So you go to Chris, that's the usual spelling, ChrisLuehr.com.
Okay.
So ChrisLuehr.com is the best way to find me. And on my social media, it's mr.chris.luehr. So whether that's on Instagram or you can find me on Facebook, or LinkedIn is probably my biggest platform as well. But it's the Luehr that hopefully sticks in people's minds. It's okay. People want to blend in, want to make something easy to remember, but sometimes it can be easy to forget too. But if you can remember that you probably won't forget it.
You're pretty okay, right? I like that. And I like to have people spell out their websites or email addresses because, we all spell differently, especially when our name is involved, So I've had many people who will try to email me, Mark, MARK_Adams. And guess what, buddy? That might bounce. Yeah. So beautiful spelling with that for us. So we can find you on a few different platforms. And always, guys, we will make sure to put that contact information in all of our comments too. So that's cool. So let's talk a little bit more about you in your business of consulting and storytelling. What makes you an expert in your opinion?
That's a great question. And like I said, it's really the experience. I think it's out there in the world. We think about 10,000 hours as a way to build that expert level of experience.
Yeah.
And for me, I grew up as a storyteller. I grew up in a family of storytellers. So hearing my uncles and my father and my aunts and my sisters tell stories was really in my blood. And that translates again into communication. I was an English major, doubled down, did an English master's in that. So my whole career in education has always been, what's the best way to communicate these complex ideas and complex information? In fact, I still remember when I was 10 years old, my dad was about my age. He was in his 40s, going through his midlife crisis. And I remember him sitting me down and say, Chris, it's very important for a man to be able to tell a good story. And I think it's important for everyone, but I still remember that stuck with me. And so growing up, I was always telling stories. That's how I ended up doing performance. That's how I ended up doing the storytelling later in life. And that's something that I've always done. And it all came from him. And I still remember a few years ago, I was actually in China. I lived in China for a number of years, and I was studying law in China with some friends.
Wow.
And this one friend of mine, Reed, he said, he's starting to tell a story about, he went to dinner at some crazy Chinese restaurant. And he started to tell a story. And he said, actually, Chris, why don't you tell a story? And I said, Reed, I wasn't even there for the dinner. Like, yeah, but you tell the story better.
Wow.
So once you start telling other people's stories a little bit better, that's a sign of expertise too.
I know what I'm doing. Okay, very cool. That's interesting. So you said you were an English major?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and a lawyer. So I told you I play words with friends. I don't think I want to challenge you.
I got a lot of Latin I can fall back on.
That
I got a
might
lot
be
of
a
Latin.
losing battle for Mark, and Mark wants to win.
Don't we
Just
all?
kidding.
Don't we
Just
all?
kidding. All right, awesome. So let me ask you this question, Mr. English major. How do you define success?
I thought about this one because you sent this question out, and
Yes, I did.
I think we grow up with images of success, ideas of success all around. And so I think the first sign of true success is defining it for yourself. I think it's really different. And understanding
I
that
love it.
success is going to be different for different people.
I love it.
And along those lines, for me, a key component of success is having the freedom that you want. And that can be freedom over your finances. For me, I found out, I was working in the cubicle life, working in my cubicle cell, but I had my laptop and I was working in this great big building. And I thought, well, if I take my laptop out of my tiny little cubicle and maybe I go work in the cafeteria or I go work in the company library, I thought, oh, I can take my computer over here and I can go over there. Maybe I can take it outside of the building. And so I actually negotiated a remote work situation and then doubled down on that and was traveling around. That's a whole nother story. I got rid of everything
Okay.
that didn't fit in my Corolla and drove around the country for 2 years, working out of coffee shops and
Oh, wow.
libraries, still
Okay.
working for a Fortune 500 company. And that for me was a key. It's like, oh, freedom over my location, freedom over my time, which is something that entrepreneurs aspire to, and freedom over
Yes.
my finances. For me, that's real success. If you have that kind of freedom, then you have the freedom to explore your creativity and grow. And then you can choose where you want to go. Freedom to decide your career path. A lot of
Nice.
times we'll get into a big corporate ladder and there's one rung, and next rung, next rung. It's a very clear path and it's safe. And a lot of people like that, but it might not be the path that you want. That's the path that your company wants. And so I
Right.
find as a business owner, I get to have the freedom to then determine my growth, determine where I'm going to send my business, what talents I'm going to acquire, what am I going to learn, and what challenges do I want to give myself. So freedom for me
Nice.
is the big part of success.
Nice. Very cool. Success equals freedom, but it's personal. So freedom for one equals success, but for another person, it might be something completely different. I love it. That's a
So,
nice one. So then do you consider your business successful?
yeah, I do. I always like the idea of magic. I think it's something that's very enchanting for people. And the idea of magic is sometimes making something out of nothing. I thought, well,
Okay.
how do you get something out of nothing? And that's why I love the creative process. You start off with a blank page and then you start writing and then you have a story. You've created a whole world. And I thought, well, I love that process. How do you do it with business? And that's what entrepreneurship is about. There was nothing. And then I had this idea of maybe I can do some of this presenting and professional speaking. And then maybe I can do this as a coaching. Several years ago, there was no Chris Lear Consulting. And I just started building the idea, started
Right.
building some tools like my Law of the Jungle tool or my success story system. These are tools that are really, really helpful for professionals, but they didn't exist until I wrote them down. My website didn't exist until I wrote it down. And now it's this whole enterprise, it's this whole business. And so I think that is really, for me, the definition of the success. There was nothing, and now there is something, and I have the freedom to see what it becomes in the future. So
Beautiful.
it's amazing. And
So
it's important to look back every once in a while and appreciate that because
yeah,
it's a
just to
slog some days.
reflect on where you came from, and it does. One of my coaches, because our coaches have coaches, right? He says
Absolutely
you
needed.
always celebrate successes, celebrate them. If you don't, you lose something there. So I like that. So let me ask you this question because you mentioned you've built these different things. What's one thing that you have inside of you that makes success possible for you? Like what is it that makes you successful? What character trait do you have? And you say, I
Right.
think this is what it is.
I think there's uh, two things that are
Okay,
really
we'll
important.
take two.
So I'll sneak it in there. I like my words, and I use them early and I use them often, Mark. And so you give me one word, I'll try and sneak in two.
I
Uh,
know, storyteller.
exactly. And so I think one is that creative spirit, that desire
Okay,
to create something out of nothing, and that goes for when you're creating your career path. What do you want it to look like? When you're creating a project, when you are creating a relationship with a client, it doesn't exist. And so you have to be creative. How do you connect with this person? How do you stand out in whatever field you're at? I mean, there's a million websites for accountants, for lawyers, for coaches. How do you exercise that creativity so that you do something different? Like you said, there's lots of people who do coaching. There's lots of people who do consulting, management consulting, leadership consulting, communication consulting. But I knew my strength was storytelling. That's something that's a little bit different. And then the other really key component is persistence. You just got to get out there and do it every day. And that's especially true for entrepreneurs. It's got to be something, you're going to hit those roadblocks, but you got to do it, and you got to get up and do it the next day. And that was a big lesson for me, because like a lot of folks, I was a wantrepreneur for lots of years. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I think about it, and then I try something and it wouldn't work, and I get frustrated, and I change course, and then I change course, and I change course. But one thing I learned from my coach is that it's consistency and persistence. That's what wins the day ultimately in business. So just getting out there, knowing you're going to face rejection, but getting up and learning and keep doing it every single day. That's a key component to success.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. And you know what is interesting, because if you consistently take action every single day to reach your goal, before you know it, many days have passed, right? And you're well on your way to reaching your goal. And you look back and you say, man, 5 years ago, this was a concept. And now I have the jungle, what was that jungle system? And I've got the website, and I've got this, and I've got that. It's a product of that consistent effort, right? And we all have that in business, those who are successful. So I love that. Let me ask you this question, which is the other side of the coin. So I'm flipping the coin. What's one big mistake you might have made in your business journey?
I love that question too. I mean, it's different. There's a lot of bad interview questions out there. You know, what is your greatest weakness? I think is just a horrible interview question, because it just forces people to lie. No, my biggest weakness is that I work too hard.
Yeah.
I'm a perfectionist. No, you're not.
That's not true.
But failure is something that you can learn from. And so for me, the biggest misstep early on was wanting to do it alone. Right? Like we all want that freedom. We want that entrepreneurial spirit. And we want to be able to do it as an entrepreneur. You wear many hats. I'm the content creator and the marketer and the accountant. And, you know, I keep the calendar and all that stuff. But what I realize is that it's so important. And you hit on it before there, Mark, saying that coaches need coaches. Everyone needs a coach. And reaching out and investing in that has been a game changer. I still remember a great image that someone I talked to years and years ago, back when I was in law school, and I still had that entrepreneurial spirit. And so in law school, you have a couple electives like you do in college. You have law school electives. And I took mine in the business school. So that should have been assigned to me. I'm like, maybe I should be in this school. But in that, I needed to interview someone. So I went back to an old boss of mine who had started his whole captioning company, actually. And one thing that he said to me was, if you think of trains and old trains in the cooking cart, they used to have just one train car that was just for the cook. And there was a circle in the middle, and the cook would stand there, and they designed everything so you could reach the pots over here, and the stove was here, and the sink was there. And so that they could reach everything in there, because he was just a one cook, one man show, right? And so it was very well designed. But he said all he could reach was what was right around him. He couldn't reach into the next car. He couldn't go over there. So when you're building a business, sometimes you do all those things so you could do it yourself. But if I really want to expand into another car, I got to hire someone. I need someone to help me to get into the other car. And so that was a great lesson I think about a lot. So whether, if you're just a solo shop like myself, I still have someone I talk to about my marketing. I still have a coach that helps me with my accounting. I still have those other people. Like when I was, building my, I do a free class first Thursday of every month at noon Central Time. I do a free C4 explosive communication class. I have friends that come on that who ask questions. I have my wife, who was on the couch, honey, at noon, I need you to jump on there. So you have more people.
How come I wasn't invited to the class? I'm
exactly.
offended. I need to be to the class.
You got to come. You got to come.
I want to come.
And so the more, but there's a hesitance there, because especially if you're like me and like a lot of entrepreneurs, you want to control everything, right? I'm building this thing. It's my baby. If I let go of it, they might do it wrong. But no, they won't do it wrong. They may do it differently, but that lets you expand. And once you release and you get to the point where you can rely on other people, suddenly your whole world opens up. And it's the same idea when we think about network, right? Your network is your net worth. You can't network just by yourself. You got to talk to those people and talk to those people and talk to the people that they know. And so for me, trying to go it alone was a big stumbling block early on.
And I think that's
understanding that I need help and
one.
reaching out was huge.
Yeah, that's a big one. So many solopreneurs do that, right?
Yep.
And a lot of times it's a question of money. I'm trying to make money, not spend it. Right? So the solopreneur walks alone, but you used a word as you were going through your explanation that's important for business owners to understand. The word you used was invest.
Yes.
Right? We invest, because when we think about investors, we're spending money to make money. So when I invest in help, it's to grow, not just to spend. Even if it's as simple as bookkeeping. If I invest in a bookkeeper, it allows me to now spend my time going after clients, because I'm not using the time doing books. I want to make money. So always, I think that's an interesting issue that many solopreneurs have, going along. It's a big mistake. Obviously, there is a time when you're going to start out alone. I always say the solopreneur walks alone. But that journey should be short.
Yeah.
You need to quickly start finding those people, and like you mentioned, invest in, so that you can grow. Or you'll be that cook that you can't get out that one cabinet, that one car. I love it. That's a good lesson. Let me ask you this question.
Actually, if I could follow up on that one, Mark, you made me think of something. It's investing also in the right things too. So I find that once I get to a point where my expertise is a limitation, that's when I need to invest. But I know, especially now that we're doing everything virtually, I do, daily video posts, I would do Zoom stuff. You see some people out of the gate investing in a $1,000 video camera or a specialist system where your phone is going to be good enough for a long time. And so it's investing, but in the right things. Yeah. Like just because you buy, I have a good friend who teaches trap shooting, right? And he said the worst was, he's teaching these kids who would show up with this really, really expensive firearm and have no idea how to shoot it. And he thought, you can go down and get, a $40 pistol or $40 rifle and learn how to shoot, and then maybe get the thing. Same thing with guitars. Like I play guitar, so that makes sense to me. You see some people spending like $1,000 on a guitar. Just go down and get yourself a $50 or $25 guitar and learn the chords, then step on up. So invest in the right things, I think is key.
I like that. And that's really true. And that is so important, especially when you're starting out, because unless you start your business rolling in dough, you'll lose it really quickly.
Very fast.
Yeah. I had a friend that we're going to digress far too much, but she bought a desktop years ago, computer. And she wanted me to hook it up because she didn't even know how to connect the monitor to the desktop. Yeah. So I go to her house and I'm looking at this. I'm like, you bought 2 CD drives in it? She said, yes. I said, why'd you buy 2? Oh, because they told me that, it was a deal and I can get the second one. Well, what are you going to use it for? I don't know. I don't know how to use the first one. Okay. It's not a great deal.
Right.
It's not a great deal then if you don't know what you're doing with it, right? So invest in the right things, people. Use your money wisely. Now, you said that as if when you made some mistakes, you've learned from it. What caused you to reflect and say, when I invest, I'm going to invest in the right thing. I made this mistake, and going forward, I won't. What was that thing that you did to help you to understand those mistakes?
Yeah, I think for me, I've gotten close but pulled back most recently because I do a lot of work on the computer now, and my computer is a couple of years old, and I've been doing more. Like my example of us moving into the virtual world since the pandemic is a point well taken. And so for me, I was looking at one of my coaches, and he has got a sweet setup. Every time we're on a Zoom, every time we're on a call, it looks like he's been lighted by Steven Spielberg. He's got the great camera. He's got everything.
I got to work on that one next.
We all do, right? And so I asked him, I said, oh, I was just kind of doing a little more video stuff. And I said, what's your camera? What are the cables? What are the things? I'm ready to invest, big bucks on it. And he's the one who said, I'll tell you, and because he resisted, he didn't respond right away. And I was like, you're my coach. Come on, help me out. This is the stuff I want. He said, no. Start with your phone. Get used to doing it that way. And then once you hit those roadblocks, then invest in the thing that you need, right? Don't buy your way into a good video. Yes. And so for me, I still just use my phone for all the video stuff that I do. There's a great free program, InShot, that I use that helps you edit everything. And it's really all I need. And so for me, I could sense a desperate desire to buy myself into expertise, but you can't, right? You go out there and you slog around with like the basic equipment. And then slowly, once you get some money coming in, okay, now I got a couple $100 from this client, I can invest in a ring light. Or I got a contract for $4,000 or $5,000. Now I can upgrade my computer. Like, wait until that stuff comes in. Don't try and buy yourself into a business.
You see me writing, I'm writing notes, right? You use the phrase that I'm going to steal in perpetuity. You like that word, right? It's don't
That's a good lawyer word.
Yeah, I love that one. That's one of my favorite ones. Don't attempt to buy yourself into expertise. Yeah. Right? That's a beautiful phrase that you used, right? And so many of us, we can tend to do that depending on who we are. Like I'm the opposite. I'm so cheap. I hold on to the last minute. I started doing podcasts because I really loved this whole idea of chatting and meeting with business owners. And I used my webcam mic and it sounded fine to me. Then one day I was listening to a podcast, my own podcast. I was driving to see my folks in Philly and I could barely hear myself. And I'm like, what in the world? That told me, okay, maybe I should get a microphone, but only then. Right. And some people, they tell you, oh, your microphone, you can get, this $3,000. I'm not on the radio, no. I'm not Colin Cowherd. I'm Marc Adams. So don't buy yourself an expertise. I love that piece of advice. And it's something that we can keep it to the forefront of our mind. You were going to say something. I kept talking.
Yeah. Because your story is a good reminder of what the process, I think, should be, is getting that feedback. Like, you didn't say, oh, I just think I need, just from the top of my beautifully shaved head, I don't think that I need a good mic. I heard something. I got feedback and responded to it. And so I think I think my theory is that's something that I talk about when I'm doing my storytelling and using the hero's journey, is when we go on the journey of our career, the journey of landing a new client, the journey of a project, is there's always some point where we have to face that fear. And it gets uncomfortable. And so we want to get around it. So I didn't want to start using my iPhone and have it sound crummy, or I didn't want it to look amateurish. So I wanted to avoid that pain by buying a really fancy camera. But instead, I'm using my iPhone. Turns out it's fine. You started using your camera, your microphone. Turns out it was fine until you got a little feedback. Like maybe it felt a little uncomfortable to be like, I can't hear myself really great. Yeah. But you can use that. And I think that's really important. When you face that fear and face that uncomfortability, pain is a messenger and it's a lesson that you learn from. But too often we want to avoid all of that. Yes. That's the only way to grow.
Yes. Now you've talked a bit, and I want to move a little bit further into this whole idea of mentors. You said you have a coach. I said I have a coach. Coaches have coaches. So how have mentors, give us just one story, if you will, of how your mentors or how your coaches have contributed to your success, if you don't mind.
Right. I think when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That's a phrase I hear a lot, and it's been very, very true for me. And so, like I said, I was going it alone for a long time. I was reading all the books, going on all the right blogs, trying to do things on my own. And I just wasn't getting where I wanted to go. So I said, you know what? Because I don't have those funds that we don't have when we're starting out as a solo entrepreneur, I'm going to save up a little bit. So I saved up and I saved up, and I had like $500. I was like, okay, I'm going to take this $500, huge, big amount of money, and I'm going to invest it in a coach. And so I was looking around and I met a guy who was doing some coaching. Turns out he was in my church circle. So again, once you take that step into the unknown and say, I'm actually an entrepreneur, I am a coach, I am a business owner, then these people start coming out, right? But you have to put it out there. So I met him and I thought, oh, maybe I can hire him. But then I saw he had a coach and his coach was having a program. They said, come join this program, only $4.99. So for me, I thought, well, okay, that's a sign. I said I had $500. This guy who's a coach of a guy who's successful, so he's doubly successful, is offering this program right now on the week that I'm looking for a coach at $4.99.
And I got a dollar left.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. And so that's kind of the story of how I came to a coach. One of the big stories that I've learned from the coach is they'll give you different things depending on what you need.
Yes.
And that's something that's really key for me in my business is sometimes I'm working with people who are really open to presenting. They've done it a lot, but they want to get better. They want to get to that next level. And so with them, I do certain advanced presentation techniques. How do we do stagecraft? How do we really craft a story into their presentation? They need something that helps them get to the next level. For other people, they're terrified of anything that's public speaking. They're terrified of turning on that little camera that's been staring at them, in the Zoom. And so for them, they need a little something different. So with my coach, he saw I had all these pieces going, but I needed to push myself to get a little uncomfortable. I needed to start doing some cold calling. I needed to start doing some more video, which I was kind of unsure about. And so for me, he pushed me and said, you know what, make a commitment, say you're going to get a video done by the end of next week, or there'll be some consequence. And that was huge. And I did a video, and now I do a video, 5 days a week, and it's no big deal. And it's really easy. And I'm getting better at it because I had that push into facing that fear and being a little uncomfortable. So that was push. Coaches can encourage you along, or they can push you along. And a good one will know how to do both depending on your situation.
Nice. I love that. I love that. And now, like you said, it's just a par for the course. Let me make a video of this right now.
Exactly.
It's
and
funny.
It's true with everything. No one's good right off the bat at anything.
Yeah, it's a process. I remember when, and this wasn't a coach. This was a class I went to, and they talked about the importance of video. And the guy said, I know how you probably feel right now. Oh, I don't want to do a video. I don't want to be in front of the camera. I don't like the way I look. And I'm like, yep, that's me. I don't want to be in front of the camera. And he said, so I'm going to give you one piece of advice. And everybody sat up and get over yourself. I was like, well, that's rude. He said, just do it. And I was like, oh, wow. And so the first time I had to do it, I was like, you know what? Let me just get over myself. It is what it is. And now you're right. Now I do podcasts. I never would have thought. So coaches can encourage, push. They have to know, they learn you, and then they move you to where you need to be to get to your next level. And that's just a nice story you gave us. Thank you for that one. Let me ask you another question, if you don't mind. Got a few more minutes? All right. So let me ask you this question. If you could go right to before you started your business, right before it, what advice would you give yourself?
Another fantastic question. And I think it's true. It's something that I tell a lot of my clients, especially my early career clients, is just start. Like you were talking about, just get over it. Just start, whatever it is. I teach, in fact, I'm doing another class next Thursday. The first Thursday is going to be about humor.
Invite. Go ahead. No,
I will send it to you. You are invited. But I'll be talking about using humor in your professional communications. Some people are worried about that. What if I say I did stand-up comedy for a little while? Terrified, right? The first time I went up. But why are we terrified? You're terrified because you're going to say something that maybe you think is funny and other people don't think is funny, and it's going to feel uncomfortable. But once you get over that, then you start exercising that humor muscle. Then you start saying jokes. Then you're suddenly, oh, that's Mark. He's the funny guy. Let's talk to him. I remember that guy. And so for me, it was doing videos. Didn't really want to do videos. Didn't know how to do it. I knew it was a good business move. I knew it was something that I would probably enjoy and like, but I want to make sure it's perfect. I want to do this or that. No, just do it. And so whether it's communicating with a new client, whether it's making cold calls, whether it's changing your marketing, adding story, or just basic adding story into your communication, maybe say, I'm a horrible storyteller. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to merge those things into my communication. Just start. And that was the thing for me, being a wantrepreneur for so long. I was reading all the books, making sure I had everything all kind of set up, and then make sure that my train car was right so I could just push it down the line and it's just going to sail on. But that's not how it works. You're always building the airplane in the air as you're
Yes, you
falling.
are.
That's
Yes,
what
you
building a
are.
business is. So you got
That's
to
right.
just start and learn along the way. That's the best way.
I love it. I love it. So just start. I wrote that one down too because it's simple, concise, but so poignant. And there are too many people, and myself included, who have business ideas and never get from concept, right? It's like, oh, but, and you think about all the reasons why you don't have to start, and you never just start. So I like that one. I actually have a program that I work with some business owners. Well, they're like a pre-revenue, right? I call it the launch program.
Oh,
So many business people have ideas, but they're not business people yet. They want to be in business, but they can't launch. So we prevent failure to launch. We help people go from concept to reality in 90 days. Can it be done? Sure, it can be done. Why can't it be done? Just start. I like it. I might throw that in my class. Just start.
just
So
start.
I like it. Beautiful.
That's the way to
One
do
more
it.
question. One more question, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
This is
No,
my
go
bonus
ahead. This
question.
has been great. Keep going. Keep them coming.
This is the bonus question now. So every week we do a mastermind session, a group,
All right.
small one, and we kind of vibe on different topics.
That's
So we
awesome.
pick a topic, we talk about it, and then we move forward and just get your thoughts. So this past week, or the week before last week we did a training, but we had this topic to discuss. And I want your thoughts. Wonder what your customer really wants? Ask, don't tell. How do you apply that?
That's wow. Ask, don't tell. That's great. That's great. And for me, it goes to the heart of what I do with folks. Because my theme is when I work with clients, I help you connect, convert, and conquer. But the first part is connect. Right? The first part is connect. You have to connect with people through the story of what you're doing, because that's how people emotionally and mentally and then financially connect with you. And so when you're asking people what they want, for me, in your communication, it's presenting the story, and really the ask is implicit in there. You're saying, this is my story. This is what my organization does. This is the problems that we solve. Is this a problem for you? Are you interested in this solution? And so you can be explicit about that. But for me, I find it in the story. That's where people are going to connect with you. So you put your story out there. My business helps, professionals harness the power of story so that they connect with new people and convert new business and build professionally strong relationships. Is that something that you need in your business? If not, that's fine. I'll go on and talk to someone else who needs those business, because I know there's other people who needs that service. If it's not for you, that's okay. I'm glad that we chatted. But I think, again, it's that fear of being rejected where we don't want to ask people what they need.
Right.
And so we're afraid of putting it out there. But whenever I'm talking to a new person, I say, this is what I do. This is my story-based trainings. Does this seem like it'll be a good fit? And I'll just ask.
I love
and they
it.
can say, yeah, send me the information. And they say, no, we're not interested. I say, thanks and have a great day.
Beautiful.
Really
Beautiful. I like that. And that's how we become more valuable to those who say, oh, that's what I need, because you've confirmed it, you've asked it, you've got that clear understanding. I was speaking to someone else and he said, yeah, never start a sentence with, you know what you need to do? Ask instead of tell. I love it. Hey, Chris, this was a lot of fun. I want to thank you so much for giving us some of your time and your expertise. We appreciate you telling us some of your mistakes even, but giving us more insight onto how we can be successful in our own business. So thanks so much. We look forward to continuing to see your journey to success.
Thank you so much, Mark. This was an absolute blast. I really appreciate what you're doing as well. And yeah, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for the time. This is great.
My pleasure. My pleasure.